Hi class, today I'll be discussing why white-collar crimes are worse than blue-collar crimes. Blue-collar criminals may appear to be much worse, but this is not the case. With acts of rape and murder being more malicious acts of crime, the simple fact is white-collar criminals deal damage on a much larger scale. From fraud, embezzlement and scams, these crimes affect our economy, our society, and the worst of all, these crimes rarely get detected. All these details add up, explaining the reasons behind why white-collar criminals are underrated. Blue-collar crimes are much more easily resolved. Majority of the time, blue-collar crimes are resolved as there is usually some form of evidence left behind leading to arrests. With white-collar crimes, this is not the case at all, as there is very minimal evidence left behind, making it exceedingly difficult to prove. One of the major reasons that it is difficult to persecute someone who commits a white-collar crime is due to the crime being well thought out and precisely executed. This results from the fact that people who carry out these crimes are genuinely well educated and are quite cunning, meaning they can easily deceive people. There is also the fact that white-collar crimes can take years to be resolved in court. Cases argued within the Federal District Court are subject to the full discovery of evidence, which means all evidence must be shown and proven. This means that it can take years for each side to investigate and present evidence for or against a defendant. These days, with most of the crimes being committed at the hands of technology, it has even become even more difficult to trace. This demonstrating that the difference in ability to arrest the two types of criminals. While blue-collar crimes are more malicious, there is far more emphasis in stopping it due to the more hateful nature. Police and other authorities care much more about stopping it. This may come across as the right thing to do, but this is likely not the case, with annual costs of street crime being around $15 billion, while white-collar crimes' annual costs can be seen around the $1 trillion mark. You can see the difference. This demonstrates how the attention needs to have more focus on white-collar crimes, because the major issue is even when someone is convicted of a white-collar crime, they are rarely sentenced properly. Most of the violent crimes included only imprisonment in the sentence, except for assault, which had a significant amount of probation included. For example, only 44.9% of those convicted of embezzlement receive prison time as part of their sentence, whereas with arson, 96% of those convicted are given prison time. These crimes may be very different, with arson probably being the worst crime, but white-collar criminals get away with too much. To prevent the onslaught to the economy, it appears there needs to be more intent on persecuting white-collar felons. Blue-collar crimes usually impact a small group in the society, like the friends and family of the victim, whereas a white-collar crime has the ability to affect thousands, if not millions. The Commonwealth Bank is a frightening example of this. The Commonsure scandal, Commonwealth Bank's insurance arm, Commonsure, has been charged with hawking for trying to sell insurance products through unsolicited phone calls. The issue with this is people involved were not punished and the Commonwealth Bank was only fined, and people with the bank were severely affected. There are other examples of white-collar crimes that drastically affect this Australian society. Scams are one of the biggest ones that get innocent people to invest or give money to scammers. In 2019, it is said that scams have cost $634 million in Australia alone. The biggest issue with scams is they can be very hard to detect that they are a scam. Australia's biggest con man, Peter Foster, is an example of being another way to deceive people out of their money. In the 80s, he created his own line of Bailin and Chow weight loss tea. It was labelled as ancient Chinese diet secret. The truth was that it did nothing. This illustrating the potential harm that it can cause to our society, as these crimes impact so many people through these greed-induced criminals. Blue collar criminals fail to impact on the scale of white collar criminals. The term money rules the world would be best addressed to the difference when comparing the two. White collar criminals are responsible for hits against the economy as well as the community. As little can be done to stop white collar criminals, it is likely it will keep getting worse. Blue collar criminals affect the minority, white collar criminals affect the majority. This will never change as murder has no chance to impact as much as a nationwide scam or serious accounts of fraud. Blue collar crimes are worse in the act, but white collar crimes are worse in the effect. Thank you.